woke up wide-eyed and cheery in Reading, Pennsylvania on Sunday, October 24th, 2021. I was supposed to have been back in North Carolina by now, but was having way too much fun in Pennsylvania and decided to stay an extra day. I had two things on the docket for this Sunday: chasing Reading and Northern 425 and a visit to the Strasbourg Railroad. It was going to be a busy day of train watching, and I was itching to get started. Passing the R&N's Reading Outer Station, passengers were boarding and anticipation building, both on their part and mine. I wanted to use this morning to give a relaxed chase of the fall foliage excursion, with more time in between shots and hopefully some drone action along the way. Part of my thoughtful chase plan included scouting out locations in person, to which I decided on the S-curve at West Hamburg for my first spot of the day. Chasing the excursion train OSJT, or Outer Station to Jim Thorpe, would cover the southern half of the railroad's main line from North Reading to Pittston. About 15 minutes after I was settled and the stomping of 425 rang through the air, I couldn't help but crack a smile. Initially, I was hesitant about the backlighting at West Hamburg, but think it came out nicely in the end. The Baldwin Light Pacific is tearing into a station stop at Port Clinton, which gave me more than enough time to get into position at Molino. This morning's low-key chase was a world apart from the blistering pace of the previous day, as I had enough time to light up the drone for an aerial pace. And boy, am I glad I did. This is one of the coolest drone videos I think I've captured, as the plumage snakes its way through the mountainous anthracite region. In no time, 425 was screaming through the sleepy neighborhood. The drone's top speed was no match for the mighty 425, but I loved it all the same. The wind was just right this morning, blinding the Mavic with the aftermath of America's loudest steam locomotive. So far, I was enjoying the luxury of taking my time in between shots, apples to oranges when compared to the dizzying 19 run-bys I achieved the previous day. Each type of chase provided me a good time though, and I was more than happy to sit back and enjoy the scenery as I made my way to East Mahanoi Junction. This is a popular spot among rail fans, as the turnout is near the summit of a 1.9% grade. I was set up quite precariously on the open grate bridge of Tuscarora Park Road, and a little nervous the special effects of 425 would have something to say about that as the Light Pacific wrangled its train uphill. Well, there's only one way to find out. took a breath of relief as I enjoyed the beautiful aesthetic of a matching Pullman passenger train gliding along the slickened rails beneath me. While waiting at East Mahanoi, I was tipped off that the fall colors at Lake Drive were among the best on the excursion's route. I wasn't originally planning on stopping here, but couldn't resist the thought of watching 4 1/4 steam through an orange leaf tunnel. I sure was pleased to have pulled off at Lake Drive. This was a beautiful scene, well worth the unscheduled stop, which in turn ended my so-called relaxed chase. About 15 minutes later, I found myself running down the side of a mountain, barely beating the excursion to Jim Thorpe Junction. This was my last roll-by of OSJT, a very bittersweet feeling indeed. I was extremely happy to have finally made it to the Reading and Northern, but sad that my time here had come to an end. One door closes and another one opens, however, and I was making my way for the Strasbourg Railroad shortly thereafter. I knew I was close when I found myself in the beautiful Pennsylvania Dutch countryside. Driving through Lancaster County eventually brought me to Railfan Wonderland, with the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania on one side of the road and Strasbourg's 2 p.m. train preparing to depart on the other. The Queen of Steam was also present, as it would be spending the winter in Strasbourg in preparation for some future excursions. I didn't have too much time to ooh and awe at 611 and was soon back underway to perhaps one of the most recognizable places in American rail fanning. This is Lehman Place in Paradise, Pennsylvania, where the Strasbourg Railroad splinters off of Amtrak's Keystone Corridor and continues 3.5 miles to its namesake town. It felt completely surreal to stand here, as I remembered the videos my grandma and I used to watch of Strasbourg so long ago. My trip had been amazing so far, during which I'd seen Alco, MLW, EMD, and Baldwin locomotives, all while managing to not see a single GE. Well, I almost managed to. The Keystone Corridor is kind of like the NEC's little brother, and trains move pretty quickly through here too. At least most of them do. The 2 p.m. Strasbourg train wasn't in too much of a hurry, as Norfolk and Western number 475 eased its train towards the runaround track. Lehman Place is where all of Strasbourg trains flip direction, with the passenger cars left on one track while the locomotive runs around them on the other. As 475 underwent the runaround move, I repositioned at Black Horse Road to film the return trip, where I was joined by some local rail fans. .475 is one of 3 active steam locomotives owned by Strasbourg, built in 1906 by Baldwin. 1906! This engine is 116 years old. To most, that's something to celebrate, but it's just another day here in Paradise, Pennsylvania. Rocking along behind the 475 is an impressive fleet of 10 matching, mostly Pullman-built passenger cars, all of which appeared to be made from wood. Although Strasbourg only operates about 4 miles of track, the 475 was moving along at a leisurely pace, so I decided to try and beat the train to the station. I pulled off and was set up in time to see the 480 guiding its 10 cars alongside the platform. Immediately upon arrival, 475 cut away from its train for another runaround. This required pulling past J Tower, an old dispatcher's facility that was relocated to Strasbourg many years ago. While diesel locomotives are classified by numerous characteristics, steamers are widely denoted simply by their wheel arrangement. 4 leading wheels up front, 8 driving wheels in the middle, and 0 trailing wheels, traditionally placed under the cab, give this N&W locomotive a 480 classification. Different classes have received different nicknames, as you've heard the 425 referred to as a Pacific type, the name for all engines with a 462 wheel arrangement. 475 doesn't have quite as neat a name, with the 480s simply referred to as 12-wheelers. Now, I'm not much of a whistle or air horn aficionado, but 475's whistle is special. Harkening back to its original owner, Strasbourg has outfitted the Baldwin with a Norfolk and Western hooter, possibly the most recognizable whistle type in modern times. This whistle can also be found on the famous Western Maryland Mallet number 1309 and Reading and Northern T1 number 2102. It was an overwhelming feeling to be standing at Strasbourg, which is quite literally railfan paradise. The folks at SRC take great pride in their railroad, keeping a beautiful collection of locomotives, rolling stock, and trackside decoration on display to really hit home the nostalgic feel of watching a steam locomotive. I knew the 3:30 p.m. departure was imminent as 475 began relieving pressure, and excitedly planted myself at Esben Shade Road. This was their last train of the day, boastfully making its way through the Amish countryside. In a staggering turn of events, the 116-year-old locomotive isn't even the oldest piece of equipment on today's train. The 10 passenger cars trailing 475 were built between 1896 and 1912, with one built for the Reading, one for Western Maryland, one the Baltimore and Ohio, and 7 off the Boston and Maine. Perhaps the coolest claim to fame, in my opinion, is the Lee Brenner Dining Car number 93. This is the only wooden dining car operating in North America, built in 1909 and named after the founder of the Strasbourg Railroad. As the 3:30 train trundled on towards Lehman Place, I took some time to observe the surrounding countryside. This part of Pennsylvania, much like the Anthracite region, is incredibly peaceful and beautiful. Unlike the Anthracite region, however, Lancaster County hosts the trademark rolling pastures of eastern Pennsylvania, dotted with Amish houses serving as a beautiful backdrop. 475 made quick work at Lehman Place once again, and I was back at Esben Shade Road to gaze upon the Strasbourg Railroad one more time. This was a perfect way to end an incredible trip as the 12-wheeler chugged its way through Amish country once more before holing up for the evening. With 475s passing, came time for me to saddle up in the driver's seat southbound for Wilmington. As I put the Baldwin's smoke in my rear views, I smiled thinking about what an unforgettable time I had rail fanning some bucket list items. Between the Delaware-Lackawanna, steam and diesel action on the Reading and Northern, the Strasbourg Railroad, and some stunning scenery courtesy of Mother Nature, the pleasure was all mine to have spent a long weekend in the Keystone State. Thanks for rail fanning with me today. I hope you had as much fun on this trip as I did.